We are more than happy to welcome you all to our study once again and resume our meditations on Savitri. I hope you appreciate the new arrangements we have made to facilitate a visual communion in addition to the usual auditory communication. Because when we can see each other, there is a greater facility for identification and sharing of an experience. At the present stage of human evolution, I have found during all my travels that real progress is made in small groups rather than in large numbers. Wherever studies have been conducted, meditations have been held in unified groups, there is a marked change in the psychological climate of the people involved. When the numbers increase beyond a manageable limit, there is dispersion, lack of coherence, and a lessening of the required tension of consciousness. Those of you who have lived here long enough will have observed how meetings with sadhaks, which mother used to have in the early days, began with very few numbers. Those in the prosperity, those in the soup room, those held for study of prayers and meditations and so on. And she used to take a lot of interest in the proceedings. But as more and more inmates asked and started attending the sessions, things began to come down in their quality with various kinds of questions thrown about, doubts, with the result that they came to an automatic stop, with mothers losing interest in those sittings. From that point of view, we are ideally situated in this, that we all know what we want. We know from where the light comes. We know whose is the presence. And there is a solidarity of aspiration, understanding, and the questing spirit, wanting something. the mental reading and understanding of Savitri is only an occasion. Through the word, through the utterance of the word, through exploration of the sense, there is a communication in consciousness. And to the extent our individual consciousnesses are geared to the central consciousness that is Mother, we all grow in her in each session. It is this character of our satsangs that is very important. And when we join, we should keep in mind and have a silent prayer that let me take one more step towards you, towards thee in this session. We have been studying the book of the Traveler of the Worlds. We saw how what was just a brief passage in the original writing, a brief passage describing Ashwapati and the higher worlds, came to be developed into 15 cantos, running into 200 pages, totaling over 6,000 lines during the revision. Obviously, the contents of the 15 cantos are a record of Sri Aurobindo's personal exploration of the higher planes and worlds of existence. Possibly, that experience was not present in that form when you originally wrote the first draft. Through the years, during his tapasya, he had direct experience of entering into these higher worlds, understanding them, and he is the first person in history to have communicated that knowledge to humanity. If what he has been written here had been written in prose form, it would have read like fiction. It would have read like any occult essay, like that of Swedenborg or some of the theosophists have written. It doesn't convince. Maybe or may not be. But in the form that he has chosen, every line is like a bullet. Not only it is convincing, but it communicates the experience. The knowledge of the supraterrestrial worlds cannot be communicated by anyone who does not have it at first hand. All of us can write and speak and lecture on what is written in the scriptures, what is written by others, whether in their imaginative exercises, speculations, or misguided seances. But a verifiable experience of the type that Sri Aurobindo communicates is nowhere available except in Savitri. Even the same truths, when he has spoken of them in the letters or referred in the synthesis, they don't go that deep in our being as in Savitri. That is why Mother calls Savitri, it is not a poem, it is not just an epic, it is a living teacher. It is not a teaching, but a teacher. A teaching is a knowledge that has been codified, systematized, and labeled and handed over. But a teacher is one who is alive, who takes sense of the need of the person who seeks for the teaching and gets into the soul of the person. And this role, Savitri has been eminently fulfilling. I was surprised during my recent visit to the north of India how almost in every home of awakened individuals, Savitri is read, Savitri is studied, and I was pardonably flattered to learn that reports of our satsangs on Savitri have been found very useful by those who have not come to Pondicherry, and they have begun to understand the epic and benefit by it. We read how after Ashwapati had the experience of universalization following the psychicization of his consciousness, after he found the soul, the self within, how he expanded and became one with the totality of the universe, particularly the terrestrial universe. Thereafter, he was moved to cut the cord of his mind, which ties to the earth, and he soared above into the unknown, watched by the infinity above, infinity around. And he saw a star of worlds, like a mountain chariot of the gods, each world rising serially over the other, all based on the earth, and whose heights disappeared from the view. He found himself in the subtle physical world, which is next to the physical world of ours, the world of beauty, rhythm, pattern, an idealized world of all earthly, artistic, aesthetic aspirations. He was delighted to find that every experience on earth is first enacted here in this subtle physical world. How the subtle physical world acts as a filter to the flow of the higher consciousness, higher force from above, which would be found too intense for the earth body. So it would be filtered, tempered, and then passed on to the earth world. But he is not satisfied. He feels it like a perfect picture in a perfect frame. It does not move. There is no progression. So after spending an idle hour in the subtle physical world, he moves on, where he sees life in its glory, Pranaloka, the huge waves of life surging forward, winging, always joy and beauty, strength and power. He watches the life world in its full glory. He sees the high summits towards which the waves of the ocean of life heave, but they don't reach it. He tries to enter into this world of life, but he cannot. He finds that there is something in him, despite all his realization, purification, satirization, something that prevents him from being able to enter into this life world. Then it is revealed to him how, when the earth was still young, there was a cry from the gods of earth, that is from the beings of earth, for the descent of life. All was beautiful, all was perfect, but there was no movement. There was no life. So they prayed to life to come down and fertilize, to activate the earth. And in response, the original life force from the life world came down. And as it came down, everything sprang into life. All the plants became green. The small creatures started running. The message went round. Just at that moment, something dark questioned all and struck at the descending life. It was something like a dragon, this inconcept, and it maimed the life force that struck. Thereafter, the life force that touched the earth was never the same as it was before. Life has had to accept death, the terrestrial condition, limitations, imperfections, and struggle through. And Ashwapati, being part of terrestrial creation, was heir to that handicap. So he understands that life in that world is different from life here in our physical world. It has been tainted. It has been vitiated. It has lost its original grandeur and character. And it has to struggle through. Both Mother and Sri Aurobindo say elsewhere that these, what are called accidents in evolution, may look unfortunate, but in truth, they turn out to be very fruitful, because the results that will ensue after the prolonged struggle and ordeal of the evolving spirit will be richer than what would have been if there had been a straight evolution. So Sri Aurobindo speaks elsewhere of Godhead greater by a fall. And that applies to life force. And then Ashwapati enters into the little life world. Mind you, that is the life world formed after the junction of the descending life force and the aspiring earth. There everything is anarchic, everything is doubtful, nothing is certain. Every little form, every little creature is driven by a craving, desire to have, desire to reach and possess. And these petty desires reflect themselves in dull sensations, animal instincts. Life appears and dies before it has really lived. It looks, the whole experiment looks questionable. But Ashwapati, in his vision, sees this is some beginning of a tremendous dawn of God. This is not everything. Here are faint beginnings of a glory of God. He sees how the divine has sacrificed itself in order to redeem the earth. And the divine shares the struggle and the suffering of the terrestrial creatures. So, after this belt of sensations, animal instincts, there comes the belt of vital impulses, large impulses. The animal world, the world which moves, which has bigger desires, formulated impulses, each one trying to devour the other. There is no law except the law of possession. Whoever is successful, he is right. So this law of mutual devouring, mutual slaughter, obtains not only in the animal creation, but even in the human creation, which is still animal in character. Such human beings are called human only by courtesy. Their animal heritage is still powerful. So the poet has described how the animal world and the human world close to the animal lives in rapine and slaughter and rape. And thereafter, a third creation comes. In the life world, a third creation where there is the birth of thought. Thought in a living being, thought in the life world, what you may call the vital mind. And that is where we had arrived in our studies, and that is also from where we will resume our studies next time. Another side remark that I would like to make is, when Mother and Sri Aurobindo speak of the higher planes, the mental, the vital, the higher mental, the psychic, and so on, it is not that there are some geographical locations in the cosmic map of the universe. They are in us. In each one of us, all the planes of existence are formulated, organized, even as they are organized in the universe. That is why man is called the prototype of the universe. If I want to live in the mental plane, mental world, I do not need to leave my body. I start thinking, living in the world of ideas, thoughts. I am in the mental plane. I have desire. I imagine, plan how to fulfill my desire. I take steps to acquire what I want. I live in the vital plane. My consciousness is in the vital. I am busy arranging for my food, eating it, enjoying it. I am on the physical plane. So too, I think of God, I think of the immortal self, I pray to it to reveal itself, and I am on the spiritual plane. So all these planes are organized within us, and they have their points of contact, what you may call windows, on their respective planes of existence. And these centers, where we come into contact with the universal planes, they are called chakras in our tantric system. The center at the base of the spine, what is called the Mooladhara, is the center of our physical existence. When we station ourselves there, entirely identified with it, we are in touch with the universal physical. We are one with the universal matter. Similarly, at the center of the navel, the Manipura or Nabhi Padma, it is the center of the vital force, life force. From there, we can act upon the life forces of others, draw from the universal life force. Similarly, here is the center of mind. By projecting from here our consciousness, we can enter into the minds of others, impose our ideas on others, and touch the soul or the psychic being. We open to the spiritual level of existence where all is one. We feel one with others. We are open to the universal self. And that is what Mother means when she says, you can realize unity with others only on a spiritual basis. Mentally you may believe, emotionally you may feel for others, but that is not effective. But if you touch the soul level and from there participate in the oneness, you can contribute to the welfare of others. You can play your part in the progress of the society. So that is the spiritual plane. So too, above the mind, there are still higher planes of consciousness with their corresponding worlds of intuition, inspiration, overmind, and so on. But the point is that the microcosm that is man epitomizes the whole organization of the macrocosm, that is the universe. And Sri Aurobindo takes care throughout the narration to relate Ashwapati's development of those particular levels of consciousness with the worlds in which he enters. It is a logical process, not something miraculous that he does. So it is a progression of the integral yoga towards the supermind, towards the truth consciousness. The capital, the crucial juncture in which is when he meets the Divine Mother, the book 3. It is only when he receives the boon of the Divine Mother that he is assured of success of his mission and the possibility of transmitting all the glory that he has seen to the terrestrial world below. The Divine Mother is the agency for effecting this transfer, for effectuating the will of the Supreme Purusha. How? Even this concept of Purusha and Shakti is not the ultimate, is not the final truth, but it is only a status of polarity assumed for the modalities of the game of creation. Sri Aurobindo describes graphically when he speaks of he and she, how they play. Ultimately, he and she are one. She cannot exist without he. He cannot act without she. He is the light. She is the power. And the entire epic as it proceeds, you will see, portrays this interplay of the Shiva and Shakti, the status and the dynamics of consciousness. We will stress these points as we touch them in the course of our study. I just wanted to refresh our minds with what we have studied so far, so that we are in a better position to resume our study, beginning with the third creation revealing its face. I think we'll meet again on Thursday. Now, as usual, we'll have meditation for 10 minutes.